ਤੁਮਰੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਤੇ ਤੁਧ ਪਛਾਣਾ, ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰੀ ਓਟ, ਤੂੰ ਹੈ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਾਣ। ਤੁਝ ਬਿਨ ਦੂਜਾ ਔਰ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ, ਸਭ ਤੇਰਾ ਖੇਲ ਅਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ, ਸਭ ਤੇਰਾ ਖੇਲ ਅਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ। ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਰਾਖਾ ਸਭਨੀ ਥਾਈ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ। ਜੀ ਜੰਤ ਸਭ ਤੁਧ ਪਾਏ, ਜਿਤ ਜਿਤ ਪਾਣਾ ਤਿਤ ਤਿਤ ਲਾਏ। ਜੀ ਜੰਤ ਸਭ ਤੁਧ ਪਾਏ, ਜਿਤ ਜਿਤ ਪਾਣਾ ਤਿਤ ਤਿਤ ਲਾਏ। ਸਭ ਕਿਛ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਨਾਹੀ ਕਿਛ ਅਸਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ, ਨਾਹੀ ਕਿਛ ਅਸਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ। ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਰਾਖਾ ਸਭਨੀ ਥਾਈ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ। ਤੂੰ ਮੇਰਾ ਰਾਖਾ ਸਭਨੀ ਥਾਈ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ, ਤਾਂ ਪੋ ਕੇਹਾ ਖਾੜਾ ਜੀਓ। ਨਾਮ ਧਿਆਏ ਮਹਾ ਸੁਖ ਪਾਇਆ, ਹਰ ਗੁਣ ਗਾਏ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਨ ਸੀਤਲਾਇਆ। ਨਾਮ ਧਿਆਏ ਮਹਾ ਸੁਖ ਪਾਇਆ, ਹਰ ਗੁਣ ਗਾਏ ਮੇਰਾ ਮਨ ਸੀਤਲਾਇਆ। ਗੁਰ
The heart is burning, the lamp is burning, the heart is burning, the world is burning without waiting for you. Oh, my beloved, waiting for you. Oh, the sun is burning and still burning. Oh, the sun is burning and still burning. Has your beloved forsaken you? Has your beloved forsaken you? Forsaken you? Oh, my beloved, waiting for you. Oh, my beloved, waiting for you. The ego is burning, the cause of suffering. The ego is burning, the cause of suffering. It has separated me from you. It has separated me from you. From you. Oh, my.
Hello everyone, welcome to satsang. Have an amazing week all. Today we will start with a Sabbath by Bhavani, my guru. Then we have a talk by Michael, and we'll continue with a reading by Salina. The title is Discouragement in Meditation. After that, we will meditate for 5 minutes towards Master, and then we have group meditation with love and devotion. Thank you so much. Thank you, Master. Let's start.
Radhaswami, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for giving me nishkam and selfless service. Thank you, Brother Michael Ji. Thank you, Papa Ishwar Ji. Thank you for appreciating my seva. I'm going to play the instrument version of Mere Gurudev followed by my singing. Thank you. I'd like to sing the English version followed by the Hindi version. My Guru, I offer these flowers of faith at your feet. Whatever I have, you have given to me, and I dedicate it all to you. I have no love, nor do I know you. I don't even have the strength to worship you, but this mind of mine, this body of mine, my every atom is dedicated to you, Master. You are the only one in my hearts and thoughts. You are the one, Master, who I call out to. Now make me your instrument. All I am, I offer to you. मेरे गुरुदेव चरणों पर सुमना शरदा के अर्पित है तेरे देना है जो है वही तुझको समर्पित है ना प्रीति है प्रतीति है नहीं पूजा की शक्ति है ना प्रीति है प्रतीति है नहीं पूजा की शक्ति है मेरे यह मन मेरे यह तन मेरे कन कन समर्पित है मेरे गुरुदेव चरणों पर सुमना शरदा के अर्पित है. Radha Swami, thank you so much. We love you, Master. We love you, Papa Ishwarji. We love you, Great Master. Thank you for all your love. Radha Swami.
Hey guys, welcome to Forward. We're a new type.
Sister Bhavani, thank you so much. Mere Gurudev, this song just brings goosebumps to my body. As the word Gurudev, when somebody recites it with love, it just really raises our hair. Thank you for all the love. Thank you, Master, for Bhavani's seva and for Bhavani. Welcome, everyone, to the happiest time of the day, where we all gather in the name of our holy fathers, Ishwar Puri Ji, Baba Sawan Singh, Sant Thakar Singh, Sant Ajayab Singh, Sant Kirpal Singh, all the great ones that touched the face of this earth. We gather in their name and we are showered every day with happiness, with love, with security, and with protection. My master is the greatest, he who protects me. My master is the greatest, he who protects me. That those who have the master with them, who live in master, who walk in master, who are in love, lost in love in God, to be lost in love, lost in the ocean of love is the highest thing. To be lost in love, that means to lose all the worries of this world, all the problems, all the diseases, All the suffering of this world is lost in that ocean. And that ocean of love just fills us with all the attributes of love. And that is the happiness, the security, the contentment, the purity, the radiance of love, the radiance of God. That all becomes our characters. It becomes our characteristics. So this is really the happiest time of the day, where I feel the master power at its most. When all of us gather in his name, wow, it's a great power. It's a great thing. And it's a great blessing. I look forward every day for satsang. I am addicted to that love. I am addicted to that love, as I know when I feel that love, it's like Master puts his foot on my mind, on our mind. He puts his foot on our mind, and the soul comes up, and the soul drinks the nectar of the Lord. The soul becomes wet in the love of the Lord. Wet in the love of the Lord. That's what the soul becomes, imbued with the colors of the Lord. Our mind is put aside, and our soul comes up. And when our soul comes up, then all happiness, all bliss, all ecstasy, all intoxication in the love of Master, intoxication of just seeing Master's videos, of looking at him, looking at his eyes, and that all gives us warmth, strength, and love to go on, to go on. We need that love. We need that love to go on in this disturbed world. This world is so disturbed. And if we lose touch with that love, even for a second, it seeps in. And once it seeps in, once the mind takes control, then you know what happens. The mind always wants us to be fearful. The mind always wants us to think of the past and the future. It puts worry in us. It puts worry in us. It makes us forget that Master is inside of us. The King of Kings, the King of Kings is living inside of us, and we have no worry. When the King of Kings lives inside of us, how can we worry that something that is lower, something that has been created from him, can really disturb us? That can never happen. That can never happen when the King of Kings is walking on earth with us. And to be imbued with his love, then we have his vibration. We are vibrating on his frequency, and we are receptive. We become receptive to the inner knowledge. All inner knowledge will sprout in us from within when we are receptive to the Lord. So yes, meditation on the holy light and sound, especially on the sound, is so powerful. And the sound invites us in. Sometimes the sound becomes very loud, and it's an invitation from the Lord. Come within and enjoy. Leave the outside and come within. When this happens to me, then I get very happy, and I try to stop everything and plug my ear with my thumb and just listen to that holy song. Listen to that invitation. It's an invitation. Every time the sound becomes loud, it's an invitation to go inside from the Lord. And we shouldn't miss that invitation. If the sound becomes loud, stop everything and listen to the sound. There is something there that God wants to give you or us from within. So it's so beautiful to be in tune with that love, with that shabd, and to be in tune with the shabd. To be in tune with the shabd is to be able to walk on this world having the boots of love. The boots of love makes all thistles, make all thorns, makes all needles go away. And then we become receptive. We become receptive. What happens when we become receptive? We start to get messages from the divine inside of us in meditation. Sometimes not even in meditation. It just becomes it comes right away as an intuition. And that intuition is coming from the Lord. So the most important thing is to become receptive to the Lord. And how to become receptive to the Lord? To keep him in our heart. To keep him in our heart 24/7 if possible, all the time. All the time we can either think of Master, do the Simran, think of Seva, what we can do for Master in Seva. That's also brings a lot of blessings. Seva really is the highest thing that we can do for the Lord and not expect anything else in return. Then it also acts like meditation. And Ishwar Puri Ji says it is like cash going right away in our bank account. And it brings the joy of doing seva for Master is the highest thing. To feel that joy, to feel that bliss, as when we are doing seva for Master, Master is using us at that moment. Especially if we are connected in His love, if we are doing that seva with Simran, with love, with devotion, then Master is there. And when Master is there fully, then He's always there. But when we're doing seva, like he comes out, and then we feel the love, we feel the bliss, and then we don't want it to end. Just like when we used to be in the presence of Ishwar Puri Ji or Santakar Singh. Santakar Singh used to visit us like for 2 weeks sometimes, and we used to be in the ashram for 2 weeks, and every day would be satsang twice, darshan, drishti, and seva in the presence of the masters. Those times, I say, cannot be repeated, and they are just the kingdom of God on earth. The kingdom of God on earth, to be in the energy of the master, in love of the master, and to just imbibe all that blessing, and then to be in the presence of the master for 1 minute. To be in the presence of the master for 1 minute burns so much karma, and it's like hundreds of years of meditation that a person can do by himself. Saint Kabir said that, Guru Nanak said that, all the saints and masters say that in the presence of the master, in the presence of the master, everything, everything is cleansed. Everything is put towards the direction of God. So much rubbish is drained out of us, and love is added every moment to us. I miss those moments. And those moments when we are in that moment, in that atmosphere, we really don't want it to end. We really don't want it to end. There is a story of my master said that story, Santakar Singh, and he said that once he visited a lady, I think she was in Germany, I forgot where, but when she saw him, she started crying, and he asked her, "I am here with you. I just came. Why are you crying?" She said, "Because next week you're gonna leave, and I'm crying that you are leaving." And this is the same thing when we were in the presence of the master. It's like we didn't want it to end. We wanted to stay there, because to be with the physical master, then what is it? To be with the physical master, then our soul is with God and in the kingdom of God. At that moment, it's like we are in the kingdom of God, because everything is a reflection from the inside comes outside. And when we are outside with the physical master, our inside is with Father God, with Satpurush, with Gurudev, and it's the same thing. The same thing when we were with Ishwarji. We didn't want it to end. We were with him at the lovers, the real lovers were with Master till the end, till he left his car and could not be seen anymore. We didn't want to lose any moment to be with Ishwarji. We just wanted that love, and we wanted to stay there, and we didn't want it to end. As when we are with the Master, it's because the moment becomes momentless. The moment becomes momentless. That means it's an eternal moment, and it's beyond time and space. That's why it becomes a momentless moment, to be in the presence of the master just for 1 second. That is like eternity, and we don't want it to end. We don't want it to end. We want it to stay there, and that's why we are beggars. That's why we come to satsang every day, to feel that, how when two or more gather in my name, there I am. And when we are here, then the Master is with us. The Master comes up. We bring him up. Our love brings him up. As our love for Master, that deep, deep, deep love for Master, the yearning to be with Master, removes the curtain, especially when we are meditating and we are yearning for Master, we are yearning for God. We just want to go inside. We're not interested in anything in this world. Slowly, 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 He weans us out from all the enjoyments of this world. It's a process. It's a process that cannot be hurried up. It's a process step by step, step by step. He weans us out from all the enjoyments of this world, even travel, everything that sounds so beautiful in this world, then we don't want it. Why? Because it doesn't offer the peace, it doesn't offer the love, it doesn't offer the ecstasy, the bliss, the intoxication of just closing the eyes and listening to the holy sound for one moment. Closing the eyes and listening to the sound for one moment, especially if it comes with love and devotion and yearning for the Master, it removes the veil. It's so powerful, that yearning, that love, that yearning, that missing of the Master, missing of the physical Master, removes the veil and brings up the inner Master. It brings up the inner Master in front of us. Then we can see the inner Master. We can enjoy the inner Master, even though it's just for a glimpse, for a second, but at least He shows us He is there. And that love, that devotion, that yearning for Master, that yearning for love, just remove that curtain for even 1 second. Just to have that curtain removed for 1 second and to see the inner Master, which is our highest self, our God self, that brings the highest security, that brings the highest joy, that brings all the pleasures of this world, even the pleasures of the three worlds, the saints and masters say, cannot match for one moment being with the creator of all pleasures, being with the King of Kings, the one who created all the worlds. To be with him even for 1 second inside is worth everything outside. That's why everything outside slowly, slowly, slowly becomes insipid. Insipid, that means have no taste, have no taste. What is travel? What is seeing the outer oceans and the outer mountains and when everything is inside of us, and especially the King of Kings, the one who created this outer show. To be with him, to be with him is to be with everything. To have the inner master is to have everything. As this, my master Sant Singh used to say the story, and he was saying the story about the king who was very, very generous and who was giving all types of gifts. And he had a bazaar, like a fair, where he invited everybody, and he was giving everybody who comes could choose a gift and could take it. And at the end of the show, there was still a lady there, and she did not pick a gift. And the king asked her, "Why aren't you picking a gift? I told you you can pick anything you want." And then she said, "I don't want anything from your gifts. I want you. I want you." And she got to have him. She got to have him. He took her to his palace. He took her to his palace. She got the King of Kings because she didn't want anything from the outer gifts. She wanted the king. And the same thing as the Shabd changes us. They say souls have no name, but they take the name of what love changes them to. They take the souls have no name, but they take the name of what love changes them to. And that's what we are. What love makes us, that's what our name will become. If love transforms us to a generous one, we will be known in the kingdom of God as the generous one. If love transforms us to humility, then we will be known with our humility. This I heard from the saints and the masters, that souls have no name, but souls take the name of what love transforms them to. and and to ask for the King of Kings. Love, love keeps on transforming us every day of our life. Every day of our life is a different day because more love has been added to us. Even even if we go through grief and suffering, they say in the saints and masters say that God gives grief to the ones who he favors the most. Isn't that hard to hear? But it is the truth that sometimes he puts salt in the wounds of his most lovers, of the people who love him the most. Why? Because suffering also is a cure. The cure is in the pain. Suffering changes us. Suffering changes us to something much better. So, because when we look at the whole picture of all God's creation, and we see that there is suffering, then everything that God, we cannot judge everything because everything is perfect when we see it from above, as Ishwar Puri Ji says, when we see it from the moment, from the place of totality, then everything is perfect. So even the suffering, even the grief that we go through, then it has a big, big remedy behind it, that the cure is in the pain. The light enters the body where there is a wound, they say. That's from Rumi. So everything, the grief, the pain, the joy, the ecstasy, the peace, everything is God. Everything is God, and whatever comes our way, we have to surrender to it and accept it as it is God's bringing it towards us. God's gift at the moment. It could be pain, it could be grief, or it could be pleasure. But everything that comes is coming for our betterment. Everything that comes towards us is coming to make us one step closer to God. And sometimes when it's so dark, that they say the darkest cloud has a silver lining. The darkest cloud has a silver lining. That means when the hard times come, they are followed by the good times. So we have to keep faith, we have to keep trust, we have to keep the trust and the faith in the Master that He is in charge of us 100%. We can never lose that faith and that trust that Master is taking care of our life moment after moment after moment, moment after moment. He is designing our life, and we have to have trust in that. Whenever the mind comes in to put fear in us, to put distrust in the Master, kick it aside. Kick it aside by thinking of Master. When you think of me, there I am. The Master say, think of me and there I am. Think of God and there God is there. And when the mind comes, we have to always keep our foot on our mind. Our mind, the ignorant mind that wants us to always suffer and have fear and just live a terrible life. Whenever the mind, we have to keep the mind leashed. How do we keep the mind leashed? Doing Simran, thinking of Master, and listening to the holy sound. Listening to the holy sound is the most powerful thing, and it brings the security, it brings the harmony, and it changes our vibration to God's vibration. Slowly, slowly, slowly. This is what I wanted just to say this morning. There's a lot of poetry I wanted to read, but I can do it another time. I'm looking forward for Sister Shalina's seva. Um, I see. And does anybody wants to have a song for Master before we play Shalina? Um, if anybody wants to sing for Master, they can put their video on. Okay, if nobody has a song for Master, we can play the seva of dear Sister Shalina. So thank you, Master, for the seva, and I'm looking forward for Sister Shalina's seva.
Thank you so much to the Daily Satsang Committee for enabling me to perform Seva. Today I read out of the rssb.org, and the essay is Discouragement in Meditation. And even though I perform Seva, and you are all able to hear this, I seem to think that the essays I pick revolve around me. I probably need these more than anybody else, but I hope that you will benefit from the following excerpt. In one of his letters, the great master wrote, "What is the object of our lives? Man is born so he may merge his soul into its source and not be born a second time in the world. The greatest service one can render to is to merge his soul by freeing it from the attachment of mind and matter in that ocean of peace and bliss of which is the particle or the drop. The path that we follow consists of exploring spirituality through a meditation practice designed to help us to understand the nature of human existence and experience higher levels of consciousness to merge our soul in the ocean of the peace and bliss. We are beginners on a long journey. In the process of our seeking, and by great grace, and after many lives, we have come to the feet of a spiritual master, and he has given us a technique for spiritual evolution along with his guidance and support. Our real identity is soul, and that soul, which is a drop of the ocean of consciousness or God, longs to return to its true home and become one with the Supreme Father. The technique of meditation we are taught consists of repetition or simran of 5 holy names in order to still, quiet, and purify the mind, followed by bhajan or listening for the inner spiritual sound. The masters teach that this sound, which the saints refer to as Shabd or Nam, is the manifestation of God and creates and sustains the whole creation. It is the word of the Bible and the logos of Greek philosophy. The meditation practice is supported by a specific way of life: vegetarianism, abstaining from mind-altering drugs, alcoholic drinks and tobacco products, and leading a clean moral life. Daily meditation is a part of a disciple's way of life. It's a spiritual discipline, and it's not so easy to conquer the mind and ego, which have been used to running out into the world for eons. It can feel like an insurmountable challenge, and we have our ups and downs, and sometimes we might feel dry and discouraged in our efforts in meditation. Yet it's something we've committed to ourselves to pursue, and we need to keep at it. There's a story about the devil laying out his tools on the table, and someone comes along and sees an unusually large, bright tool and says, "What's that tool?" And the devil says, "That is my best tool. This is discouragement." And even though the masters have stated that there's no failures on Sant, we may sometimes feel that we're failing or that we're not making any progress. Having climbed to the top of the mountaineer stands at the peak with awe and a great sense of satisfaction and wonder. Looking down, he sees that there is real meaning to his climb, to that journey. But if he had flown to the top of the mountain in a helicopter, he wouldn't feel so much of that meaning, that understanding, and that awe. It is the journey that makes the destination ever more meaningful. The struggle and effort seem to play a part in our becoming better people, and perhaps even makes us more worthy disciples. Now, as your bhajan and simran progress on the path is not the same pace with everyone. However, progress is always there even though we're not conscious of it, and no amount of effort is ever spent in vain. One should continue to persevere lovingly and regularly without ever trying to check every week or month how much he or she has progressed. This one comes to know automatically only when the path has been sufficiently cleared and one is nearing the eye center and appreciably improving in concentration. There is always progress, although we may not be conscious of it. And perhaps when we try to assess our efforts because we get a sense of discouragement, perhaps that's trying to assess our own efforts is really bad move on our part because we can't see the whole picture. To discourage or dishearten someone is to deprive him of courage, hope, and confidence. The prefix dis in discourage means away. So discourage means to take away one's own courage. The root of the word courage is a French cœur, which means heart. To discourage is to remove heart, or, as the definition says, to dishearten. But how do we define courage? What is being taken away? Courage is defined as spirit, resolution, tenacity, mental or moral strength to resist opposition or hardship. Courage implies firmness of the mind and willpower in the face of danger and extreme difficulty. So, as courage applies to our spiritual path, we need that tenacity and that moral strength to resist opposition and hardship, the firmness of the mind and the willpower in the face of difficulty. To be a spiritual seeker means having the courage to face one's own mortality and be drawn to seek answers to the mysteries of life. Looking at our own lives honestly takes courage. Seeking the mysteries of life takes courage. When we have a long way to go and we are tired and it seems that there's no end in sight, we may feel discouraged or become disheartened. It is human and natural when the road and that distance we have traveled seems so long. But wherever that road feels too long, the Master comes and reminds us to take heart. Stepping back and reviewing our circumstances from a higher level can give us a fresh perspective. And as Great Master wrote, please do not feel disappointed at what you call retrogression. There is no such thing as retrogression on the path, but such spells of dryness and lack of devotion often occur in the life of a devotee. In fact, these spells of depression are in a way to spur us on with greater effort. Otherwise, we're likely to become static and complacent. There is no reason to feel disheartened on the path. Go on attending your meditation daily with love and devotion, leaving all else in his hands. He knows his duty and will not fail to pay the wages due. Worldly cares will remain with us in some form or another so long as we are here. So you can try to rise above them and keep your thoughts in meditation. On this journey, there are going to be ups and downs. There will be dry times, and even they serve a purpose. So they spur us along to greater effort. Acceptance and understanding of our hardships give us greater picture. There may be some significance in the fact that God has created us on this long and seemingly difficult journey, but we are forced to remember that life is difficult and it is an uphill battle. There are no ideal circumstances, and we all have struggles. The Masters encourage us onwards. They say that we know you've got challenges and trials, but these things will teach you and strengthen you. And so we learn to be better, more loving, and more flexible people. We're always working for an ideal. We're always striving for an ideal. And if we were perfect, we wouldn't be here. The Masters accept that and encourage us in this effort to improve. We're all struggling souls trying to improve, and no one is perfect yet. The Masters have told us that we're always making progress whether we realize it or not. Trying to assess ourselves is a bad idea because we cannot do that accurately. He has his own timeline and he knows when it's safe for us to increase our love. In a wake-up call, we read, the only thing we can say with certainty is that each of us has been placed in the precise circumstance that is in our best interest, where we can best clear our karmas, where we can best live out our destiny for this life and fulfill our duties at the same time. We may have to read the story of King of Bukhara, who asked Sant Kabir for initiation, and Kabir said, "No, you are not ready." And then Kabir asked his wife Maloy to dump the house sweepings on the king's head and as he stood at the courtyard. The king reacted strongly and arrogantly, and for some years that passed when King Kabir again asked his wife to throw the sweepings on the king's head. This time the king responded, "May you, the doer of this, live long." This mind was still full of ego and self, and it had to be treated this way. This is symbolic of what we have to go through life. We are paying back the results of our own actions. The king finally was humbled through his own service to Kabir and accepted the sweepings being dumped on his head. So we become humble when we accept the events of our life and understanding. The Master advised us to go through it all and stay cheerful, irrespective. Keep going and stay upbeat. Be encouraged. Have courage. Keep a positive outlook. Although we have obstacles and struggles and hardships to overcome, we will be given the strength and wisdom to meet those obstacles. We will be given the understanding that these experiences are a result of our own actions, and we will gain the ability to learn from these experiences. And finally, we are stronger and better. We have to be patient and we have to keep working. And finally, it's all in His hands. He's not going to pluck the fruit off the tree before it ripens. The Masters often remind us that they know when it's the right time to increase their love in our hearts. This path has been described as the school of practical mysticism. It is a school, and we enroll. We attend classes, meditation, satsang. It is a step-by-step process. A kindergartner cannot earn a PhD degree overnight, but we attend school every day, and slowly but surely we grow and we learn. No matter how much we feel that we are failing in our meditation, all that matters is the effort. Our intention, our desire is to try and make that effort. And if we have expectations about results, we're going to miss the bigger picture. The Master is aware of our efforts and will give us the results when He knows when we are ready to digest them. He also wants us to go through our karmas and fulfill our responsibilities. Our effort in itself is a wonderful thing. It plays an important part in this great evolutionary process that we're going through. Huzur Maharaji wrote in a letter to a disciple, "Even in the face of seeming failure, one should continue the practice with faith and devotion. The mind has been going through countless ages, and each time it has become more scattered. The object is to control the mind to the point of concentration, contact Shabad, and begin our homeward journey. This first step is the most difficult of all, and it takes a very long time. And this length of time, depending on the results of our own previous actions, plus the sincerity and amount of steady effort we put, and following His instructions, effort and grace go hand in hand. And the more effort we make, the more grace we receive to make more effort until the goal is reached." A parent loves to watch his child try to do something that's beyond his abilities, perhaps to lift a heavy rock or climb a ladder. It is not possible for a child to do this alone. But the parent smiles lovingly as the child tries. She holds out a protective arm to catch the child in the case he falls. So the Supreme Father is pleased with our efforts, and Masters tell us that the progress is always there, even though we cannot perceive it. It is the Master's grace that has pulled us to the path, and He's given us this meditation practice. Without the grace, we would not even be interested in spirituality. We wouldn't be discouraged about meditation practice because he wouldn't even be trying for us to meditate. So it is all the Lord's grace, and it has all been initiated by the Lord. In the book Die to Live, the excerpt says, "Who makes us yearn? It's not our meditation. It's the Father himself. He uproots us from here and he takes us to his own level. Practically, we do nothing. Now you can take credit that you sit for 2 to 3 hours, but there is something that makes you sit. It's not you. Left to you, you would never sit, even for 5 minutes. So if you see this from a higher point of view, it's definitely the Father who is pulling us up to his own level. It's not our efforts at all. So although we all have struggles, his grace is behind all our efforts through our ups and downs. The struggle becomes meaningful when we get to the top of the mountain. Prayer and love are really learned in the hour when prayer becomes impossible and your heart turns to stone. You would profit much by patiently resisting distractions and learning something of your own helplessness and incapacity. No matter how distracted you may be, pray by peaceful, even perhaps inarticulate efforts to center your heart upon God, who is present to you in spite of all that is going on in your mind. His presence does not depend on your thoughts of him. He is unfailingly there. If he were not, you could not even exist. The memory of his unfailing presence is the surest anchor for our minds and hearts in the storms of distraction and temptation by which we are purified. So keep your dhyan, keep your mind on the Master. Remember him. Now that we've established that the fact is all due to his grace, we can turn our attention to the following his instructions without expectations or judgment. Yes, we have obstacles and difficulties, but at the same time, we have that sense of wonder and grace as we go through our lives. We are striving to get closer to God. In our everyday lives, the divine presence is there. The river of love and peace is flowing through our lives. If we take that one step and moment to look for it, to listen for it, to experience it. We may have difficulties, but at the same time, we have the sense of that spiritual presence, the Shabad, the grace of the Master. And as we keep on striving to follow the path, it is his grace that gives us the courage and inspiration to keep going. And I hope that you will. Thank you.
We thank our dear sister Shalina so much for her beautiful seva. Her voice is very capturing and it makes us listen. And thank you so much for your seva, and we're looking for more seva. And she was talking about the grace, that everything on this path is grace. We think that we're doing an effort and it's all about grace. That effort transforms into grace. And even when we meditate, we will find out after a while that it's all grace, that it's all the grace of the Master. If he wants to take us in, he can take us in a second. He can calm our thoughts and he can do whatever he wants. It is all about his grace. So we pray for grace and more grace and more grace. And I think this spiritual path is like the quicksands. The quicksands, you know, the quicksands, when you fall into them, if you try to move and get out, you will go deeper. And the same way, this path of love, this is like the quicksands of love, I call them, that once you're in and you even try to come out, you cannot. You will go deeper and deeper and deeper. And it is the same thing with love. It's the quicksands of love. Once we're in, we cannot come out. Once we're in, we keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into love until we drown in that ocean of love and we are consumed by love and we become love. So I'm looking forward every day to go deeper and deeper into love. And not just me, I'm looking forward that all of us will go deeper and deeper in love. So thank you, Shalina. Thank you, Master, for the blessings that you shower on us every day. Every day is a cup of nectar. Every day is a different nectar, a different ancient wine of God that we sip. Thank you, Master. We put our head on your feet forever, for eternity. And now we will enjoy the words of Ishwar Puri Ji. We'll play his satsang, and I will choose something by random. So 1 minute, 1 second till I get one.
I'm happy to see you here in spite of a storm outside and rain. Well, when I look at rain, I feel like rain is a symbol of blessings because many masters have said the blessings of a master fall upon us like rain showers. And when the rain is heavy, that means a lot of blessings are coming to us. And we have to turn our cups up so that they can get filled up. In the case of the rains of blessings which comes inside, we have to turn our cups inward, not outside. Turning our cups inside merely means that we remember that the truth of our own self lies inside. Even a master, perfect living master, whom we see in a physical form outside, is actually inside. We don't turn our cup inside, therefore we have to see him outside. If you turn your cup inside, you will see him inside. Everything is inside. So turning your attention inwards, inside, is like turning the cup upwards toward the rain. If you keep it upside down, no matter how much it rains, it remains empty. If you think, I can do partially, I have a lot of things to do in this life, I have a lot of obligations and commitments, I have responsibilities, and these are very important for me, I give some time to meditation. It is like placing the cup on a side, just not up, on the side. It does not get filled up. A few drops may come in, and we'll say, wow, we got a lot of drops. And those we try to tell other people, see how many drops we have, and we share and become empty again. The secret is to keep attention inside and not share anything. Sharing is not good on this particular matter, because when you share your own experience of the blessing you are receiving, the mind takes it as if it is an act of ego, act of trying to show off, I have something, you don't. We are trying to keep the ego at the lowest level, and by sharing, we are trying to show off that we have something, therefore the ego boasts. And that is why it's not advisable to share your experiences. But you can share information. You can share knowledge, but not your experience. Experience is very important. Somebody wrote to me this morning that because of some unhappy experience with some master in India, I have lost all faith and I question everything. I have begun to question if there is a path. I have begun to question if there is any truth. And I am questioning everything. And I don't know whether there is a Sachkhand or not. I don't know, am I just following another religion and taking it to be spirituality? And I had to send an answer while I was driving here. And I said, it's very good to question everything. Question everything, but not your experience. Believe what your experience, whether it's inside or outside. If you have an experience, believe that. And move from that point onwards, no more. There is no place for blind faith in true spirituality. We get information, we are told this is so, okay, we have got the information, we'll work on it and see how much we can actually get experience from the information we have got. It is not necessary to believe all the information just because we have heard of it. It is good to use the information for drawing a plan of going and checking it out, of meditating to see, is it real? Are there any problems that come in the way of achieving those goals that were indicated by these different information we get? That's okay. But the belief should be on your experience. It's very important. Hold on to your experience. Build upon it. Build upon it very slow. It is not necessary that we have to leap forward in this spiritual experience. Even if you take one little step every day, good enough. People think that just because we are living in a physical world and we have got a karmic responsibility and we have to pay off our karma, therefore we give a higher importance to the payoff of our karma, to our responsibilities and obligations, than to discovering the truth about ourselves. These are very highly misplaced priorities. We do not get this opportunity to escape from the law of karma except when we are in a human form. Let's not waste it. We can give a large part of our attention to meditation, to our spiritual goals, and the rest of it is good enough for carrying on the responsibilities of the world. When we give too much attention to the world, we do not achieve more. We only get more attached to the things of the world. And attachment is what is preventing us from going in anyway. So let's be careful. Are we performing our duties in this world in an objective manner? This is my duty, my obligation. I have to carry it out. How much attention does it need? It needs about 10% of my attention, 20% of my attention. Rest is all for my most important thing that I've got as a human being, to discover myself, discover the truth, go home. Why are we binding ourselves over here and not making use of this opportunity? It's a great opportunity. To be a human being is the greatest opportunity that we have. There are so many forms of life around us. They have not got this opportunity around us. Not even people, not even souls that have ascended to higher levels of consciousness. They do not have that opportunity that we have sitting here in the physical plane. Those who have ascended to higher levels, they are knowing everything and knowing that the whole thing is planned in advance. They see the whole script going through, that we are nothing but robots, nothing but somebody already programmed to go through something. We are no more than puppets. And the strings are being pulled by the program which has been designed. They can see that in the higher levels. Therefore, they go through it. They do not have the chance, should I do it or not do it? They don't have the chance of deliberating. Nor do the plants, nor do the birds, nor do the animals, nor do any other form of life have that opportunity to think, should I do it or not? Is it necessary to deliberate upon an issue? We are the only ones, the human beings, who can do it. And that power of deliberation and what we call free will only exists with us, which looks real. Let's use it to seek to prioritize our life so that we give the maximum attention to the most important thing for which we've got a human body, to find the truth in order to go back home. Haven't we stayed here long enough? Aren't we fed up with what we have seen here? Does it look like our place to stay forever? We can look at our own lives. Look at the lives of everybody around us. This is not our place. This place has this duality of the pain and pleasure, unhappiness and happiness, dark and light. This duality is killing us. We should be able to get away where we belong, which is our true home. And if the true home was very far away, I would also be hesitant to take a journey like that. As it happened, the true home is the nearest place to us. It's as close as you can imagine. It's right inside our bodies at this time. It is right inside a small part of our body, our head. Can you imagine the convenience of it? That the whole travel on a spiritual journey to our true home takes place in such a small little area called our physical head. And that is why I am always emphasizing, do not lose this opportunity. It's a great opportunity that has come. It doesn't come as often as we think it does. With our intentions and actions that we perform here, we can go into several forms of life. Life is not existing anywhere without souls. We are also souls. So is a tree, so is a plant, so is an ant, so is a bird, so is a dog and a cat. Same soul. They don't have different type of souls. Soul is consciousness, it's the same, which makes people alive. And that is why we have to take advantage of this unique opportunity. How do we balance our obligations and balance it with our internal thing? There are two approaches to that. One, give priority to the more important thing and give more importance to meditation, and the rest will be taken care of. Try it out. This is experimental. Give attention, number one, to meditation. Get up in the morning, start your day with your spiritual meditation. And let the rest of the day follow. You will find it's easier to go through. Things will happen more smoothly if you've done that. Before going to sleep, meditate again. Your night will be like meditation. It's a beautiful way to do it. Highest priority. Now, don't skip these two things. Wake up in the morning, start the day with meditation, end the day with meditation, and sleep well, dream well of good things. The dreams are actually actuated by what you are thinking at the last moment. So that is why meditation helps. Second approach says that what is inside and what is outside are the same. This is a more deeper metaphysical approach. That what we are seeing outside is because of our sense perceptions. If we don't have sense perception, there's nothing outside. If you eliminate all the 5 sense perceptions, you have no experience of anything outside. The world ceases to exist. But because of the sense perceptions that are operating inside us, we project the experience outside. It's like a projector. If you see in a movie theater, there's a projector. We are sitting in the audience looking at the screen. We don't look at the projector ever. We look at the movie on a screen. But nothing is happening on the screen except a projection of pictures that's coming from behind us. The projector is loaded with film. And there's a light behind the film. And as the film moves, all still pictures, they move at a certain pace, and we see movement on a screen, and we enjoy it, we laugh, we cry, we do everything as if the reality is right on the screen. There's nothing on the screen at all, except a reflection of what is in the projector. The projector is holding. If you change the movie in the projector, everything changes on the screen. We function in this life and create this external experience exactly like a projector. What we are seeing outside is being projected from inside. Any proof of that? Yes. Go inside and see how it works. Go inside and see how sense perceptions work. Sense perceptions are not working through the physical body. We think they are. But if the sense perceptions were working only in the physical body, we could never imagine anything. In imagination, we can do everything that the sense perceptions are doing outside. And those imaginary sense perceptions that work are inside. If you go deep inside, you will find those sense perceptions which can be created to have imagery inside are the same sense perceptions that are working through the body and creating an imagery outside. The first thing the perceptions create is that we have a body around us. And then through the body we think the whole world is real. It's a very good way to do it. By blocking our knowledge of how it happens, we have made this reality outside into real three-dimensional world, four-dimensional world. It's all happening from inside. If you realize this, and we say there is law of karma operating, creating obligations for us, where is it operating? Not outside. It's operating inside. You want to know more about the law of karma? How does it work? Then you have to go even beyond the sense perceptions. Go into deeper meditation. Go deep into the meditation with the inner self. And when you will open up your causal self, which is opening up the mind, you will see how the karma operates only on the mind, nowhere else. What we call law of karma is operating only in our minds, nowhere else. From the mind it projects to the sense perceptions, from sense perception projects outside. If we want to understand the truth about this, then the metaphysical truth is like this, that it's all happening from inside, and the script of that karma has been written prior to coming here and is just being played out. Even what we think is free will is being played out. So therefore, if you have knowledge of this thing and you would give priority to meditation, to at least reach that state where you can understand your own mind. If you can see the mind working, you will know that karma, how it is created, how it is stored, how it is played out. Then you will know there's no karma outside. It's all inside in the mind. And if you want to say, am I responsible for the karma? Is it my karma? Go even further. Just one step more. And you will find the mind is not ourself at all. Mind has been given to us as a very useful instrument for creating karma, creating realities, creating experiences outside, and the mind is not ourself at all. Our self, which we call the soul, a unit of consciousness, a unit of totality of consciousness, that soul which constitutes the self lies beyond the mind. If we reach that point, which we can, if we are seeking that, our requirement is not to do anything but that, seek to go beyond the mind, seek to go to our true reality, our own self, who we are, and seek our true home. If those are what we are seeking beyond our mind, and not something within the law of karma and within our mind, we will find a perfect living master automatically. How is that possible? Because the whole thing is being created from that karma, including the karma that is created by the seeking, and you find a perfect living master appearing for the same process of karma. So that is why the seeking is the secret. While the seeking is a secret, we appear to have a free will to seek or not to seek. That's what makes the difference. When we take a free will decision, something that looks so real to us, when we take a free will decision here to seek, then we find that the perfect living master appears in our life and he helps us to go beyond the mind. If you go beyond the mind, you'll find we, in our reality, as souls, never had any karma at all. And karma never affected us. What we are so much bothered about sitting here in this reality never bothered us. It was merely a play in an attachment to us, and we were just involved in it because we wanted to experience that play. And experiencing that play, we began to think, it's our karma. We have to go through all these things. It was never our karma. But we experienced it to generate a physical, 4-dimensional, 11-dimensional experiences at different levels. This was merely a way to experience something for which we got the right tools, the mind, sense perceptions, physical bodies, and from these three to create physical universes, sensory universes, astral universes, causal universes, mental universes. We just got the opportunity to use these tools given to us to generate different kind of experiences and enjoy them. Let's see the variety of experiences consciousness can generate. It's immense. The possibilities of our consciousness generating an experience is unlimited, immense. Why? Because consciousness means it has the power to be conscious of anything. That's why it's called consciousness. Consciousness not being aware of something, consciousness to generate the awareness. So that is why we distinguish between awareness of something which we have already created by consciousness and consciousness, the creative power. So if you want to go to the totality of consciousness, you discover the whole show is a play of consciousness which is our true self. Now imagine, to realize these things, to experience these things are possible right when we are in human bodies in the physical state. It's amazing that the ultimate can be experienced right here. What journey are we traveling to find this? Within ourselves, more within ourselves, more within ourselves. That's all. Not outside. Not going anywhere outside. All within ourselves. So from that point of view, the easiest way to see the complete triviality of what we think is so important in life is to go within and see how it's generated merely for an experience. And we tying ourselves down so much to this karmic pattern which we have created to just live a life. It's a beautiful pattern we create. Highs and lows, big and small, all kind of different experiences we have generated. Beautiful. But if we try to say this is our reality, we get caught up in it. Then we suffer pain, we suffer pleasure, we do all kinds of things, and we say this is our terrible life. It becomes terrible. If you know the reality, it cannot be terrible. We go and see movies, terrible movies. We don't say we are terrible, movie was terrible. Here we have a terrible life. Why should we say we are in terrible state? The life was terrible, which we created and saw. Good enough. So that is why the combination of what is outside and inside is not difficult to solve. Everything is happening from inside, and look upon the outside as a reflection of what happens inside. And for the free will to operate in this situation, consider what is your duty created by the karmic pattern with which you have come here. The duties are assigned to us by the kind of experience we are having outside. First experience is we are born, we have parents whom we didn't choose, and we are living in a location we didn't choose, and we have been given certain obligations right from birth based upon where we are born, how we grow up, who our parents are, what they are teaching us, what society we live in. All these experiences generated create obligations for us, create responsibilities for us. When we look at those responsibilities, as a traveler on the spiritual path, we should say, what duties do they cast upon me to fulfill from the karma that's in front of me? I have to look after my child, I have to look after my father, I have to look after so-and-so, I have to look after my job, I have to do this. That's my duties cast upon because of my karmic pattern I'm living. Do your duty as best as you can. Now people are ignoring their duties, thinking, oh, we are on a spiritual path, we don't want to get our attention outside. Little realizing that by ignoring what your duty is to fulfill the karmic obligation, you are creating definite conditions for coming back to fulfill it. You're not leaving this world anymore. You're coming back again and again. Therefore, duties must be fulfilled to pay off the karmic pattern which has been created for us. Every one of us know this is our responsibility, our obligation, and we are questioning whether we should fulfill our duties or not. If you are on a spiritual path, of course you should, as best as you can. Krishna says to Arjun, Yoga karma su kaushalam. If you want to attain enlightenment or yoga, perform your action with the maximum skill you have. The most skillful, the best mental and physical skills you have, employ them to fulfill your duties that are arising out of your karmic pattern in this world. This is not going against the spiritual path at all. It's fulfilling the spiritual path to conduct your duties, to get over the karmic pattern through which we are going. And then, when you fulfill your duties, do not say what will happen if you fulfill your duty. If I do this, what will I get for it? If you start thinking like that, then you are prolonging your karmic pattern. If you fulfill what you have come to fulfill, you are ending the karmic pattern. If you are going beyond that, you are creating a new pattern. Supposing we have to give something to somebody and we say, I've given you, now you have to give me back. When you give, it's gone, finished. Now when you expect, now what will I get out of it? New karma. You can reduce your karma in a very big way by not going beyond their own duties, including making an effort to do something good without expecting any fruit thereof, without expecting any reward. That's the secret. The moment we go beyond that, we are now prolonging our karmic pattern, and it doesn't end. So that is why, if we really want to take care of the karma that we come with, instead of crying about it, feeling bad about it, complaining about it, just do your duty as best as you can. And by the way, remember these words, as best as you can. Nobody can do better than best as you can. It may not solve the problem, but you have done your best as you can. You settle the karma. Karma does not mean that the result should be what you expect. Results are independent. Results are not settlement of karma. Best as you can is settlement of your karma. Therefore, we can design our life so beautifully that we live this world doing our duties as best as we can, and then putting a major part of our attention on going within and discovering the truth. It works. But when we get so involved in expecting rewards, fearing punishment for what we are doing, thinking beyond our duty what we are doing, we not only prolong the karmic pattern that we have created, but we also get attached more and more, involved more and more these worldly chores, and we have less time, less attention for meditation. They both go together. We have to learn how to live in this world without running away from it. People who run away from the world, that we are going to go into a forest or into a mountain to settle our travel, spiritual travel, to get some enlightenment there, get no enlightenment at all. Their mind is always in that from where they ran away. I've said many times, when you try to say, I don't want this, you get more of it attached to it. It's not a game of running away from anything. Carry your duties beautifully, skillfully. Perform whatever is needed, the action that is required in this world, with minimum of attention required for the physical duties and more attention on the more important thing of going within. This is such a good combination. We don't have come here, oh, we are trapped here, now what shall we do? No, you do what you arrange to do. By the way, who made up all this? Did somebody impose it on us? Or did we have a hand in it? This question can also come in our lives. Why I have this bad karma? God, why did you give me bad karma? Please take it away. I don't know which God we are addressing, but the one who did create the karma, if he is God, that's yourself. Nobody else created it. Our own self. Nobody else. How can we blame anybody else? Now when we perform certain actions, what makes it a good karma or a bad karma? How do we divide actions? There is a good action, there is a bad action. Who determines this? Is there any special book written somewhere which says this will be good, this will be bad forever? I have not seen any such thing. On the other hand, I have seen that what we think good and bad in this century is completely different from the last century. What is good and bad in this country is completely different from another country. Therefore, obviously, there is no absolute good and evil. It's all made up by our minds in the society, in the milieu in which we are born. We are affected by whoever is bringing us up, whoever is influencing us in life, and that is determining. But the mind is picking up. The mind is picking up this moral code from all the exposure outside, and therefore dividing events into good and bad. And the mind then itself, by its own judgment, says, oh, this is bad. I feel guilty. I shouldn't have done it. You arrange a punishment for yourself. Oh, this was very good. I did a good job. I deserve a reward. You are arranging a reward for yourself. The law of karma is operating on the functioning of our own mind. The mind creates a moral code, and then it follows the moral code and creates the consequences of it. But supposing we go with the flow, like they used to say, we accept what comes. What happens if we go with the flow? We accept what comes. Circumstances dictate, do this, we do it. Maulana Rum was asked this question. That people say, if you live in God's will, you don't create karma. But if you live in mind's will, then you do. What's the difference? He said, people don't know what God's will is. If he has given a plow in your hand, he has expressed his will, dig. You give a pen in your hand, he has expressed his will, write. The circumstances that have been created around us tell us what to do. Do it. But if we begin to go beyond doing it, then we are creating karma. Not otherwise. We are living in God's will, there is no karma. If you are using your mind to say, should I not? This doesn't look nice to me. Maybe it's too bad, but once I can do it, we are creating all the karma ourselves. So that is why it's so important that if we want to live in the will that does not create karma, we go with the flow and act according to the signs that are given to us all the time by the universe, by nature. This is what you're required to do. Do it. You have children, you have to bring them up. And bring them up the best you can. You have old parents, you want to take care of them, take care of the best you can. You have a job to do the best you can. Everything that is happening around you, do the best you can. And that's called going with the flow. Living in the will of the Lord, living in the will of God. But if you try to interfere with your mind, that becomes mind's will. That is why we talk of two wills in our mind. You can call it God's will, or you can call it the spiritual will, the divine will. And the other is, of course, mental will or mind's will. What is the distinction between the two? Mind's will is exercised when you deliberate in the mind and say, should I or should I not? This or that. When that deliberation comes, it's mind's will. When you follow what circumstances tell you, what coincidences tell you, God's will, divine will. Distinction is very simple. If you have to make decisions, and we have to make decisions all the time in our life in so many ways. We have to make decisions in our family life, we have to make decisions in our businesses, our jobs. When we have to make a decision, if we make the decision intuitively, this is right, I have to do it, do it. But if we say, is it right or not right? Should I do something else? Becomes a mental will. People have asked me that our mind is always making our will. How can we develop spiritual will? We want to develop spiritual will and divine will. How can we develop it? Is there something we can do? Only divine can do it or God can do it? And I always say, no, you have a hand in it. A very simple way to do it, just say no once in a while to your mental will. The mind says, I want this. Particularly when it wants very badly something, say no. The mind says, just one time, no. It's an exception, no. If you can say no to the mind when it wants something only 3-4 times a week, your spiritual will develop. I can tell you. But we are not used to do that. We go with the mind. Our mind decides what we should be doing. Mind says it's a bad thing to do, we do it. Mind says never again, and we do it again. All the time. I asked once, how many of you remember a time when you said, we'll never do it again, and still did it? If I put this question to you today, has it ever happened in your life, you said, this I will never do it again, and still did it? How many of you? Almost everybody. That reminded me of the story I once told about two hunters who were in the Alps or somewhere where they were hunting for some animals that lived there. And they were able to capture and kill 4 of those animals. They had taken a small plane to go to that hunting place. And the pilot of the plane said, this is a small plane, you got these big animals that you killed. Don't take all 4 of them, take 2 of them at a time. And they said, last time we took all 4 in the same size plane. What makes you think that they won't fit in? And they forced all the 4 animals into the plane. The plane crashed, as the pilot had suspected it will. In the debris of the plane, these 2 emerge and says, where are we? Other fellow says, same place we were last year. This is the lesson we learn. We repeat the same thing over and over again, in spite of knowing the consequences of it, in spite of knowing it didn't work last time. Therefore, when we are able to say no to our mind and stick to the no, that no is being said to the mind by your spiritual will. And because we are saying no to a mental will, it has to be something else. So our spiritual will develops when we are strong enough, and we become stronger and stronger as the spiritual will develops. We can become as strong as we like. Our spiritual will can become the overwhelming will in all decisions in our life if we start saying no when the mind wants something very badly. But the small things if we give in may not be that effective. When the mind wants something really bad, that's the time when you should be able to say no. So it's a process of elimination they used to call. That is not a direct development of the spiritual will. Spiritual will is already there. It expresses itself through intuitive awareness. What we are supposed to do in life comes to us intuitively, not by thinking. It just occurs to us. It's a gut feeling. We just know what to be done, but then we suppress it by thinking about it and trying to make sense of what is logical, what is mentally good to do. We are constantly doing this. We are constantly suppressing the spiritual will by overuse of mental argument within ourselves. We are overdoing our logic. We are using logic for everything. And when we use logic, we think we are making sense of things. That's what logic teaches us. You come to good inferences. When we use logic, it is of 2 kinds of logic. I've sometimes explained earlier. One is called deductive logic. Deductive logic says, this wall is colored brown, that's a part of the wall, it is brown. That means in the data, the premise that is given, you are given a data and a small part of it will correspond to the data that's given. No new knowledge. Deductive logic has never given any new information. It's only confirming an information within the data from where you start. Then there's inductive logic. Inductive logic says, if this wall is this color, it turns around which I cannot see, most likely, most probably, it is also the same color. Inductive logic depends upon an estimation, it depends upon an inference of which you can never be certain. And that is so important that in physics we adopt the uncertainty principle. The whole quantum physics is born of the uncertainty principle. We are uncertain when using inductive logic of any kind. Therefore, we are live in a world of uncertainty. Can you imagine? The more we use our mind, the more uncertain we become. The more we try to figure out by our mental capacity, the more uncertain we become. It's amazing. Whereas we think that thinking with the mind will solve our problems, it creates more problems than it solves. Simple reason, because the data in front of us, when the mind thinks of something, is very limited. What it can recall, what it can think about, what it thinks is the data available for making a decision is very limited. When the decision has been made and turns out to be wrong, we did not have some clue about a data that comes up later or we remember later. Always happens this. That is why we're living uncertain lives. Whereas if you Turn this around. Supposing you say, I am going to go with the flow with my intuitive self. I'll follow what my intuition says. Mind I will use. I will use the mind to carry out what my intuition says, not the other way around. Your life will change. It will become a life of certainty. Try it out. What I am suggesting to you is not a theoretical model I am talking about. It's a practice. Anybody interested in smoothing out your life can try it out. Make your decisions intuitively. Use the mind to carry them out. Implement them. Your life changes. But we are living the exact opposite way. We are constantly relying on our mind and our thoughts, what we should do. And even if intuitive flashes come to us, gut feeling comes to us, we negate it, we destroy it by thinking about it and saying that is not likely to happen. Because intuition sometimes says things the mind does not accept. And we go with the mind, not with the intuition. And then we know it next day, this happened, but we repeat the process again and again. There is a reason for these things which we are not fully aware of. The reason is that the mind we are using in our body today is not a creation of this brain of ours. We think the thinking process is taking place in the brain and we're trying to study the brain so much. And every time we study, we see much bigger problem that we realized. The brain is showing up so much stuff which we can't explain. But the mind that thinks, we all know how it thinks. We are all familiar with the functioning of the mind. How the mind thinks, how the mind argues, how the mind reasons, how the mind makes sense. We all know it because we experience it. The brain is a mass of grey matter. It's part of the physical body. It dies when we die. But we do not realize that the mind does not die when we die physically. It's very hard to accept when we think the brain is everything. The brain dies. How can the mind be alive? Mind holds memory. Mind holds memories of millions of years. Not 10 or 20 years or 100 years, millions of years. If you go to the mental level in this physical body where the brain is inside, you can remember the thoughts, the karma of the mind million years ago. You can go to only to the astral plane, the sensory plane. You find even sensory systems don't die. They live much longer. Only the physical body, the outside portion, dies. The rest remains intact. Same soul, same mind, same sensory system survive. When they go into new body, physical body is new, the rest is all the same. We have been changing our bodies for a long time with the same mind. Therefore, since we have every time we got a chance to have a human body, we relied heavily on the mind. So the mind has got so much power over us that it is not a power created in this life. It's a power created over several lives. That is why it's so hard for us. Otherwise, it's a very simple thing. If you are aware, mind is a very limited instrument. I don't rely on it. I make my own decisions, tell the mind what to do. Have you ever thought that we can instruct the mind what to do? Mind, think of this and make it think. When they teach us mantra, repeat these words, what are we doing? Mind, repeat these words. We are telling it. Who is telling the mind? The self is telling the mind, repeat the word. Mind says, no, I want to think of something else. And you bring it back, no, you think of this word. We automatically know that we are giving some instruction to the mind. Why can't we give the instruction all the time to the mind? Not get instruction from the mind. We can do it. But the difficulty is because we have empowered the mind to such an extent that we are beginning to believe we are the mind. That's what's happened. I think, therefore I am. Utterly wrong. I am and I have a mind to think, therefore I use my mind to think. That's correct. The mind is not our reality at all. But we've been given a useful instrument to use. Use it. Don't get used by it. But we have been used by it for so long, it's become a habit with us. The mind also likes to form habits. It's part of his nature, structure. The structure of the mind, the thinking mind, is that it can develop a habit which is supposed to be a good thing. So if you have to do repetitive things, the mind can learn something. The learning process is to have a habit. When we talk of learning and knowledge, what are we doing? It's merely to generate habits of remembering certain things, of going over those things. Every day we wake up, we know what to do. Automatically we get ready the same way. The mind is almost autonomously functioning by the habits it has created. Because of this nature of the mind, we can generate a new habit. We can create a habit. The mind says, what should I do today? Ask us. And they will give instruction. That habit can also be created. We don't deal with the mind the way we should. We should use the mind as something useful for us. And not that we allow ourselves to be dragged by the mind where it likes, which is happening. We don't even know who we are. We come to such a state because of the mind. The mind has taken this thinking power to such an extent that it doesn't even allow. How has it become capable of thinking? Who has put life into it? Who has put life into our sense perceptions? Who has put life into our physical body? Where is the life coming from? Surely not coming from thinking. Surely not coming by seeing things. Surely not coming from having a body. Life is coming from being conscious and coming from the self, from the soul. The mind is totally dependent for its functioning on the soul. So are the sense perceptions, so is the body, so are all these levels of bodies around us. They all depend upon the soul for life, for activity, for awareness, for experience. If soul is not there, everything dies. We empower the mind with our soul. We have ourselves empowered the mind, and then we say we are the mind. How can you do that? Use the mind. Use it effectively. Use it as much as you like. Think whatever you like, but make the mind think what you want it to think, not what the mind by itself want to think and tell you what to do. You tell the mind what to do. Have this greater reliance on intuition. People tell me, we like to use intuition, but we are always afraid it may go turn wrong. I said, how often have your mental decisions turned wrong? Just compare. You judge yourself. This is part of experience. When I say experience is the most important thing, this is part of experience of life. That if you have used your intuition and made the mind follow it, how often have you gone wrong? And if you only use the mind to make decisions, how often have you gone wrong? Look back your own life. You'll find out the superiority of intuition. It's a question of personal experience. Mind will argue against it. We have given so much strength to the mind. I'm sometimes surprised the mind is like a separate entity. We are negotiating with the mind what to do. It's a machine. We are negotiating with a machine. It's supposed to be operating under our power, our life we have given to the mind, and we are supposed to be negotiating with it. We are supposed to say, now mind, don't do this, do this. What is happening? We are supposed to use it the way we like. How have we empowered the mind to such an extent? This is because of our history, long history of the mind, that we have overused it all this time, and therefore now we made it our master. It was supposed to be a slave of ours, we become its slaves. The master has become the slave has become the master. What a irony. And we all living merrily in that state. It should bother us. how did we give the power which is ours of the self, the power of our soul, our intuitive self, that can operate without time and space? Our self operates outside time and space. Our self has an intuition with no duration at all. It comes spontaneously. When we have an intuitive flash, it does not take time. Every thought takes time. The mind cannot function without time, and we operate without time. You should know the difference very clear. Every intuitive gut feeling is spontaneously with no time, and every thought is with time. And yet we are relying on the thought which is working in time. So that is why when we understand the distinction between ourselves and the mind, we get to know better. The other option is meditate. Meditate in a very different way. Meditate to observe your mind. Not meditate merely to repeat words as a thought. Mind is functioning and going about its own business. The mind is constantly thinking of other things. Biggest problem we have in meditation is that we want to concentrate the mind on repeating words we wanted to repeat, and it's simultaneously thinking of other things and going away, not letting us stay even at the third eye center. Let us meditate and watch the mind. What is needed for that meditation is very simple. We know that as conscious beings in this human body, we are operating with the knowledge of our conscious point in the head behind the eyes. That's very important to know, that when we are in a physical body and we are awake, the point from where we are directing everything, the point from where we are watching the world, the point from where we are listening to the world, the point from where we are directing the body to move, the hands to move, the legs to move, is in the head behind the eyes, right in the center. That's from where we operate. Let us meditate by imagining we are sitting there in a comfortable place. Not difficult, it's imagination. Take the body and make it into a house, imaginatively, and sit behind the eyes, and don't try to think. Just watch how the mind thinks. You keep quiet. No direction to be given. Nothing to be said. You are sitting comfortably watching thoughts. Thoughts are of two kinds. In a language and in image. Words will flow. Mind thinks in words. Word will flow. Images will come. Don't interfere. Don't participate. Relax backward. Relax with a relaxing place. Watch the thoughts. See what thoughts come. Don't direct the thoughts. Don't put any thought of that you want to think about. No. Just watch the bizarre thoughts going, and you will be surprised to see the functioning of your mind. One big thing will happen if you perform this meditation even a few times, that you are not the mind, that you can watch its functioning separately from you. When you do that, your understanding of the mind becomes better. Then you realize just a machine working. And just because we have loaded up with so much information, we loaded it up with so much memory, that we are constantly relying upon it, without ever telling it what to do. You can use it to remember things. You can use it to communicate. You can use it to talk to people. You can use it to write. You can use it to do anything, but you use it to do it. If you allow the mind to just function, it never stops. By the way, it won't happen that you are waiting for the mind to think and start thinking. No. Anytime you sit in the center of your head and watch, mind is already thinking. You'll go into the thinking stream in front of you. A good way to understand that you are not the mind. You are separate. You are life. You are the observer. You are the experiencer. You are who are getting the awareness of everything, including your mind, including your senses, including the physical world, including all other worlds. You are the observer, you are the experiencer of everything. You are not the experience, you're the experiencer. Don't put experience ahead of the experiencer. That's what we are doing all the time. We are putting an experience happening in this world ahead of ourselves. Put the experiencer ahead of your experience here. Put the self above all. Now, when you talk of the self, some people say, this teaching of some mystics, oh, discover yourself, is the most selfish thing to do. What is selfishness? They accuse people who are discovering their own self of something selfish, little realizing that when they talk of selfishness, they are not talking of the self at all. They are talking of the ego of the mind, which is totally separate thing. The ego of the mind, which makes you into an I. I want to do this. I will do this. I will do this. That I-ness that comes up, that ego that comes up, that alone is selfish, not the self. The self is the most sharing one, the most charitable, most generous. When you discover it, separate it from the mind. The ego is what is selfish, not the self. So when we start identifying our I-ness, our ego as our self, naturally all the problems come up. Is ego a good thing or a bad thing? Sometimes this question comes up because many scriptures, literature is talking of the problem that ego creates. And we have somehow thought ego must be a bad thing. Supposing we try to crush our ego, say no more I. And I remember I met a very spiritual lady from Germany. She says, I have learned that I is not a good thing. So she would always say, we have found this. Or what was her name? She gave her an Indian name and say, my name is... Let's try today meditation behind the eyes with love and devotion, where you visualize your beloved and you express your love to the beloved in the best way you can and see the results of it. Please assume that your body is your house and you are sitting on the 6th floor of that house behind the eyes. First, establish yourself in the meditation chamber behind the eyes, then visualize your beloved, then start any kind of meditation you want, including Simran, listening to the sound, or conversation with the Master.